you're thinking about building a home or office in San Miguel de Allende, one of the first things that you're going to need to think about with your construction partners is permitting. And permitting, depending on where you're building, can change. If you're building in the Centro area or the surrounding area that is designated as a patrimonial or heritage site, they are very particular about what types of construction projects they will accept and what the exterior design will look like. This is critically important to figure out when you're thinking about building. When you permit your project, you're going to need to submit 2 sets of construction drawings that are architectural and engineering. This gives you the guidelines for constructing and building your house. This gives the builder to make sure that it's constructed appropriately. You're going to give paper documents and you're going to give a digital document on a USB drive. In addition to the construction documents, what you're going to need to provide is additional supporting documents, which this is the title or deed and making sure that you are in fact the landowner, making sure that your project is aligned within other projects, which means that you want to make sure that your boundaries are correct. The next thing that you're going to need to think about is, or the partners that you're working with, is submitting a descriptive letter. So think about this as telling the authorities what you want to do, how you want it to look, what is the timeline, and answering any questions ahead of time so that you can hopefully shorten the permitting process. In addition, you're going to need to submit photographs of the job site prior to building and submit that with your package. If you're going to do a renovation, then that's going to take a look at the interior and the exterior so the authorities or the permitting authorities have a good idea of what that project looks like currently. If it's raw land, then you can just take a picture of the raw land boundaries on your pictures. Once you have your permitting package together, you will need to submit paper copies and you will need to get a USB drive, and you're going to create digitals and put those digital copies on the USB drive and submit that with your package. When thinking about smaller projects, is obviously less onerous. A recent project that we worked on was a renovation. We submitted our permitting documents and within 7 days we had our first initial inspection, and we gave the initial timeline. Since the construction was only scheduled to take a month or two, they said that they would come out shortly after the completion of the project. The permitting fees were a lot less than you would pay for new construction, and the ease or the process was a little bit easier just because the renovation was smaller in scope. When you're doing new construction, there's a lot that needs to go into the permitting package, mainly because you're going to interact with other people's properties, and the permitting authority wants to make sure that you're following the guidelines of the city. They are particularly interested in making sure, especially as I mentioned, if you're in the heritage site, that your exterior of your project fits within the design and motif of the city. A builder that works on projects, no matter the project and no matter the city, always is a little bit anxious because you want to present a package that answers as many questions up front as possible, because you would like to shorten that permitting time to as little as possible so you can start your construction project. In my experience, even if you put together a fantastic project and you've answered all the questions, typically have questions. They have things that they want answered. It also depends on the personality of the engineer that is reviewing the documents. I've worked on large projects and small projects in the United States and Mexico, and what you find is that you may submit one project and it sails right through, and then you submit another project and you find someone that just has more questions and is a little bit more thorough. What we find is that when you're working on a construction project, it's best not to be combative. And I know sometimes someone can feel defensive, especially when you get question after question after question about your project. But Honestly, what's worked well for us is developing a good relationship with the permitting authorities and making sure that they feel comfortable and answering them in a way that we tell them, hey, we're partners on this project and we want to make sure that you're satisfied. When you start the relationship like this, it goes so much better, especially when they come in for inspections. You want to have those relationships to make sure that you can sail through those inspections, making sure that, of course, you've built it to spec. So in conclusion, there is no perfect solution when you're permitting, but making sure that you have a good relationship with the permitting authorities, making sure that you are responsive and friendly, and making sure that you put together a package that is clear and answers all their questions ahead of time really can save you a lot of headache down the road. The last thing that you want to consider, especially if you're permitting at the end of the year, is the end of November and December can be a slow time. Permitting can take up to 2 months, but if you're submitting a package prior to the holidays, one thing that you might notice is that could be extended a little bit longer. But generally speaking, when you're building in San Miguel de Allende, permitting takes 2 months or a little bit less.